You know, I sort of convinced myself I got sick from swallowing semen, but you didn't swallow any, right?
That's going to be the loudest laugh in the microphone. I'm so sorry.
We're your hosts, Tara, Nora, and Allie, and you're listening to Bad Advice Only.
We're just three New York City rats talking about scurrying around the Big Apple. Here, we make the New York City mistakes so you don't have to.
We're begging you. Leave us a review and follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Bad Advice Only NYC. We release new episodes every Monday, so stay tuned, rats.
This is non-monogamy episode, right?
This is the non-monogamy epi.
We're gonna fight.
But first, I think we all need to address the goblins in the room, and maybe for the listener, you might hear a muffled Tara rat.
You need to take that off.
I'm not taking it off.
Ridiculous.
You look and sound ridiculous.
You know how with COVID they were like, if you wear the mask, it really doesn't do anything, but the other people aren't wearing a mask too.
That's not true. I'm wearing a mask, listener, because these two rats are like bringing the plague into the studio, and they look terrible.
I feel terrible.
They feel terrible. They're sweating everywhere.
I'm sweaty.
I don't want to eat bread. That's how I know I'm sick.
Oh my God.
I'm like very disinterested in this toast.
I have like no appetite.
Yep.
We have the same illness. It's because we took a nap together.
Last night, I ate a burger and I didn't touch my fries. The sickness makes me have an aversion to bread.
That's a weird symptom. So Allie and I are sick. Tara's wearing a mask like a freaking idiot.
I'm wearing a mask. I have a romantic getaway this weekend, and y'all aren't ruining it with your fucking plague. But I do have some health issues that I'd like to address.
You are ruining this episode by being muffled.
And monogamous.
I am monogamous.
What are the health issues you want to address?
I don't think I'm that muffled.
What are your health issues?
I would like to get my urine tested.
Oh.
So, you know when you take supplements or vitamins and your pee is like lime green?
Yeah.
No?
I don't take vitamins.
Me neither.
Ever? But you know that happens, right? Your kidneys are filtering out what you don't need.
I thought it just means that they're
them
cheap or something.
No, it filters out what you don't need, and it causes your pee to be like a really yellowy green.
Interesting.
So I have not been taking vitamins.
Oh.
And yet my pee looks like I've been taking vitamins.
Maybe you're just a healthy gal.
I think it's a sign of unhealth.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got anemia or something.
You think anemia?
Or cancer, perhaps.
Does it glow in the dark?
It looks like it could.
All our rat doctor listeners, I'm sure that's a big chunk of our audience.
Help.
Let us know what she should do about this pee.
And what the two other rats with the plague should do.
I just think it's so funny that we both are like the exact same type of sick.
I mean, it's not uncanny.
Yeah, that's crazy that happened. I don't know
You
how that
two-
could have
But
happened
we
when
weren't
you were
together.
sick
We
last
didn't
week.
hang out all
In the
weekend.
last episode, you all talked about making out for downloads. Last week, Allie crawled into bed with Nora and took a nap with Nora,
you
who
nap?
wasn't feeling
just
well.
me?
Just you.
Oh.
Everyone napped. Everyone got in bed with each other.
Well, Tara and I took a nap together like 2 days ago,
and
so
I
she's
asked her
fucked.
not to get in bed with me.
I wonder if other friends take naps.
Your time shall come.
I think everyone takes a team nap, no?
You know what? I just asked the dad about this. Oh, listeners, I'm dating a dad. Yeah, I'm dating a dad of two.
Oh,
But I was saying,
two.
You didn't?
I thought he was just one.
no,
No,
there's
you-
two of them. Just here for a good time, not a long time. Am I right? And so he and I were talking about like adult sleepovers. And I was like, do you have sleepovers with your friends? He's 45. He was like, no.
Yeah, I don't think boys do that.
The way you've described him, I don't see him sleeping over anywhere.
He sleeps over at his ex-wife's. I have to tell you that later.
That's what you want to put on air?
That shit's crazy.
This is screaming old balls and ex-wife.
I know, so I'm going to get out of it.
Pull out.
Just a few more pillow suffocations, right?
Yes, I loved
Do you
it.
want to explain why he suffocated you with the pillow?
I don't know why he
It was
did
sexual.
it, but I liked it.
Was it sexual?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Asphyxiation can be sexual.
He was like, I was on my back, and the pillow kind of had already fallen on my face, and so I just left it
happens
there.
a lot. Does that not happen to you, Nora?
It does, but I move it.
Oh, no, I kind of
I
use it
left
as
it
like
there,
a blindfold.
like a blindfold,
I
yeah.
guess sometimes during
nice.
oral, perhaps.
But
Yeah,
I've never
definitely
had
during
somebody
oral.
then take it with both hands
Press it onto your...
and press it onto my face.
I would be very afraid
I've
of
never
that.
had a hookup buddy try to kill me as much as this man has tried to kill you.
Right, because we're nothing other than hookup buddies, except for he deleted his Bumble account.
Because he's a dad of 2. He's busy. He doesn't have time for fucking a roster. Yeah, he's having
He might,
sex.
or maybe he set his
He
roster.
could. Maybe you're number 2 in the roster.
I don't delete my apps just because I have a roster. You're always looking for subs.
I need
there
to
might
delete
be an
my
injury.
apps. The schedule's full. Roster complete. I'm exhausted.
You don't have a roster really right now.
I feel like I do.
Well,
Name your roster.
I'm not gonna name my roster on air.
Oh my God. She's private now, right?
They all listen. Hi, boys.
they all
Is there 1? Is there 20?
You'll never
You'll
know.
never know.
somewhere in between. I know that for
All
sure.
right. So should we talk about our mental health before we get into this, or
No,
are we good?
I feel
Nope.
stable.
Stable.
I don't.
Never have I ever heard Allie say she feels stable.
I feel stable. I feel awake. I feel good. I'm ready to talk about ethical non-monogamy.
Ethical non-monogamy.
Okay, so I had never heard of E&M
What?
Ugh.
before Field, before downloading
I
Field.
actually kind of annoys me on Field when like every other person is like
Everybody's ethical non-monogamy.
everyone's for the listener. E-N-M is ethical non-monogamy. Field is that kink app we're all about. And everyone on there is apparently non-monogamous. Ethically, sure.
They're all in Brooklyn, so I do believe it most of the time.
Aren't we all ethically non-monogamous until you start dating? Like, is
No,
it
these
until
are like
you're
married
exclusive?
couples and like boyfriend and
Well, I
girlfriend.
think it's dumb when single people write it. It's
do
like
single people write
yes,
it?
Well,
like they're not married.
yeah,
so
because
I
they
guess
don't want to commit.
'cause they
That's,
don't
like,
wanna commit.
That's
I
their
guess
whole
they're
bit.
signaling
That's their
to
shtick.
the app.
They're
They're
signaling
applicants.
that if they get into a relationship, they're still gonna.
But you know
have
what?
other
They're
Then
still gonna
have
relationships.
that on like the choose option that you can filter out when you pay for an app of like
Oh.
single,
Yes.
married, ethically non-monogamous, because then you can get all the freaks that want to just bang all day
Get them
together.
in one bucket.
Yep.
And then get the people like us who are technically ethically non-monogamous, but we just don't say it. That's my preferred.
That makes you not ethical, though.
No, I think it's.
That's
but
the argument.
Okay,
if you're not
so
putting
when
it
you're
out
single,
there,
it is ethical to not tell.
that you're seeing other people.
Yeah.
Until asked.
No.
Yeah.
Until asked.
Until
if you're asked and then you don't say it,
Then that's fucked up. Yeah, I
We
agree.
have been recording our episodes now for almost a year, listener, and I can smell a derailment, and I just feel it coming. This is going to be chaos.
Me and
I'll reel
Ali
it
are on
back
the same
in.
Yeah,
page.
reel it back in.
Okay.
Let's start with
so
your
there's a
outline.
definition for it.
Okay, let's define it.
It is a relationship style that involves multiple consensual, romantic, sexual, and or intimate connections. They are characterized, these relationships, by consent. Yoicks. All parties involved have to give their consent to the relationship structure. So that's where it's kind of...
That's where we're not
that's
doing that.
where we're not doing that.
Right.
And then communication. Also that.
Also not.
Open and honest communication is emphasized. You have to respect the relationship and then challenge to tradition. They challenge traditional approaches to relationships and commitment, aka there is none.
What? Alice, you're defining, not using your own. Your
No,
own
this is in the
bias.
Webster. She's reading.
This is in the dictionary, okay? With a
Listener,
picture of
if
my
you could-
face right next to it.
Oh, you're the face of ethical non-monogamy.
Okay, so there's different types of relationship structures, which
Yes.
is this is where I get like I think this is like a little too loose.
Okay, this
with
is. I
ethical
already know
non-monogamy.
this is gonna rile you and Nora up. Y'all
I'm
really
riled.
don't like it when we try to label things
We
and
hate
box
a label.
Yeah,
things.
I don't like a label. I don't like a box. It's too much.
I'm claustrophobic. Okay, open relationships, swinging, and
Yes.
dating multiple people at once.
Yes,
It all sounds.
Okay.
there
But-
are rules. There are boundaries.
All polyamory is E&M, but not all E&M is polyamory.
Correct.
What's the difference
That's
between
mindfuck.
polyamory and E&M?
I'm sure
Tara?
Allie's research has a definition
Allie?
for poly.
Polyamory specifically refers to multiple loving relationships, where
Oh.
E&M is like whatever
You may
goes.
or may not have
Correct.
emotional connections.
But once you respect, communicate, and consent,
She's already forgotten her definition.
I'm like, yawn.
So Allie and I are more in the camp of don't ask, don't tell.
But like, don't cheat
Until you're
on me, but we
dating.
can cheat on you.
Like until it's official. I do like that. I like that one.
Nora lives by that rule
Yeah, I
pretty
know.
regularly.
Yeah.
I don't cheat on my partners. However, I would like for them to not cheat on me. But yes, I agree. Like right now, Nora and I are dating
multiple
Around.
people. Right.
I have no need to tell them.
Agree.
If you're using condoms,
I am now. Thank you.
shocking.
Thank you. Congrats, Al. I didn't know you were not a condom user.
Once you go above 40, they're all scared of AIDS.
Jesus.
Dude, it's
He
true.
didn't mention that to me, but
Old Balls was terrified of AIDS.
Oh,
and,
because of the
'cause that
timing. Because they lived through the
generation.
90s in a different way than we
80s.
did. 80s.
Yeah. So that's like around the time they were getting sex ed. So yeah, AIDS was a hot topic in the 80s.
I mean, I just keep swallowing semen, so I'm like, what's a girl to
what's
do?
the difference?
Right.
Oh my God.
One lip or another set of lips?
All right, I completely lost my train of thought from that one. So just carry on, Allie.
Carry on, Allie.
Okay. So my next point in the agenda is what do we think of it? What do we think of E&M?
I think you and Nora are already trying to figure out your ways around this.
Yeah. What's your take?
I love E&M. I'm all for it.
She's monogamous, listener.
Listener, I am currently monogamous. Ethically monogamous.
Okay. Have you ever been in any kind of E&M type relationship?
Boy, have I.
I feel like, haven't we all?
I haven't.
No,
but
because no one
mine have
communicated
been.
in y'all's relationship.
Yeah, mine have been non-monogamous on their end. Mm-hmm. Consistently. But it wasn't. There was no consent.
There
or
was no
communication
consent.
or
You were
respect.
cheated on.
Right.
You were
So,
cheated on. That's
This is,
different.
this is where we
Period.
have trouble with the definition again.
Well, so here's the thing. I tend to attract a certain kind of guy, I've noticed. And it's very odd, but the kind of guys I tend to attract, they like the idea of me being like a slut. That is attractive to them. I'm so dead ass right now.
I know
but
you
first
are.
of all,
I have lots of guys, some guys,
You've been
a few guys.
Drink, I'm gonna spit my drink
Couple
out.
guys, they want to hear about my other sexual exploits. Like, they think
Yeah.
it's hot.
yeah, and
But I don't want to hear about theirs.
So there are those two different camps.
Yes.
So also for the listener, this is a new energy that Nora's been putting out. This has not been her typical relationship.
No.
This is like a newer thing.
But it has been very
But
notable.
it's very notable. Would you read one of the texts, like of what they
Ooh.
want?
Bring them
I
out. Bring them
don't
out.
have it on hand. I won't be able
Ad-lib
to.
it.
They'll be like, "Hey, did my baby girl get fucked this weekend?" like that's like their dirty talk.
Baby girl responds.
Sure did, Daddy.
And then you give details, I'm
Yeah,
assuming.
and they want to hear details, and
Okay.
they are genuinely turned on by it. Which, to Tara's point, I really do believe there's two camps of men. There's guys who do not want to hear anything about past lovers at all. They're very, and I don't even know if it's that they're jealous, but they're just really uncomfortable with it.
Yeah.
And ownership is sexy to them.
Yeah.
And then some guys, like there's this one guy I'm dating who literally, he said, my biggest fantasy is that I'm just another guy on your roster and I'm just a tiny piece of like all your fun.
Lucky girl.
Like, that's his fantasy.
Well, he's accurate.
He's right. It's true.
living-
I'm
he
not
doesn't
He's
even have
living in reality.
Yeah.
We love that.
So going back to Allie's question,
Your hair looks good.
what the fuck?
a pause in this programming. Allie says my hair looks good.
It might be because you're holding a Dunkin' Donuts cup.
Duncan.
Throw out an ad. Go.
Hey rats, non-monogamy runs on Duncan. I am drinking Duncan. Give us some money.
Hey, rats. You looking for some cream in that coffee? Dunkin'.
You know, I sort of convinced myself I got sick from swallowing semen, but you didn't swallow any, right?
That's gonna be the loudest laugh in the microphone. I'm so sorry. Allie's guilty face.
Did I swallow any of the same semen that you swallowed?
She did not use the word
No.
same.
I didn't.
Say the same.
I swallowed other semen.
Maybe that's what
But, like, why would it both be sick unless it was the same semen?
Taping my mask to my face, listener.
Have we ever double checked that we don't have any crossover?
No, we probably shouldn't. I mean, everybody you've ever tried to send my way says, fuck no, good luck. So I think we're good.
I've got a quick ethical non-monogamy story for you rats.
Okay.
Does it fit in the agenda, Al? You look concerned.
Sure, no, I was just seeing what else I have, and it's not much, so feel free.
I think I told you guys the story, but I didn't tell the Rat Pack. So hi, Rat Pack. This one's for you. I went on this date a while ago, like 2 months ago or something. When I get there, the guy tells me he's married. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like,
Surprised?
yeah, I was surprised.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, does your wife know? Are you ethically non-monogamous? And he's like, it's sort of complicated.
Nope.
Because, so that's a no. He goes, we were ethically non-monogamous for a while, and then she wanted to close the relationship back up. And so she did. And I just didn't. And I'm like, oh, and
So he's just cheating.
I'm like, so you told her that you were going to continue to pursue other partners and she wouldn't? And he's like, no. And I was like,
Fuck is wrong?
What a roundabout way to say you're cheating.
and he was talking so loud in this bar we were in. I was like, so you're just very loudly telling me you're cheating on your wife. And he's like, yeah. And then I said, and he has kids. And I said
He's gonna
something.
get caught.
Oh, for sure. That's what I said. I was like,
Absolutely.
this guy's going to get caught so fast. And then I said something along the lines of like, is this what you would want for your kids? And he was like, absolutely. The constraints of monogamy are so wrong.
What the fuck?
And
What
I'm like,
constraints are there?
I'm like, okay, so you proposed to her. Do you remember propose? You know, that's what pisses me off about like cheaters. You proposed. You asked for this. No one
Yeah.
forced you. You could have just stayed fucking single.
Or like when your wife decides to close the openness of your relationship, you then say, I don't want to do this
Right.
anymore.
Let's get a
just-
divorce.
Right. Why would you lie? Like, it's so. And then he, like, literally described to me in detail, like, how he had to change his behaviors to lie to his wife. And I'm just like, this is the biggest turnoff I've ever heard.
You never saw him again, right?
No,
Yeah, you don't do married. None of us really are interested in married men.
I'm not interested in married men.
Not
Married men are
interested in
very
it.
interested in you,
I could be if their wife knows. If their wife is in the loop and, like, thinks it's hot and fun, then I can get into it. But, like, definitely, I mean, cheating's just not a turn on to
Not
me.
a turn on.
It is to a lot of people, though. Like, a lot of people actually find it sexy to cheat, and I really
get
don't.
that. I do
Like, it's,
get
like,
that.
naughty.
Like it's like that fantasy. It's role playing. But
Taboo.
you need it's taboo. But if that's your thing, you got to be open with your partner about it, and then come up with that role playing of like, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I'm going out to dinner with the boys
Right.
in quotes or whatever. Like have
some code words or
code words
something.
where you can still like if you're in an open relationship and you want to have that like cheating excitement or whatever, like there's ways around it.
Yeah.
But I mean, what Nora is saying, it goes so far back to that engagement. Like there's so many people that just you're so far ahead of yourself and like you're just in over your
Yeah.
head. And you just get engaged and assume that's going to be the solution.
I just don't get why you wouldn't talk about it before you get engaged, you know? Like, oh, I could see myself wanting this someday.
I've had that conversation with piece of shit.
I had that conversation with lots of my boyfriends of like,
Yeah.
if we got married, would we ever open it up? What would that look like? And for me,
Right.
we can all talk our preferences. For me, I would be open to non-monogamy in two ways. One, I'd be open if everyone's always in the same room, like
Okay.
threesomes. I definitely don't want my guy dating separately.
Yeah.
And the other way is if I'm like the hot wife, which for the listener and Allie, because she looks confused. This
Nora's
is like,
hot.
No, you are hot.
No,
I'm just absorbing.
That's not the point. The point isn't how
Beautiful
hot or
woman.
not I am. The hot wife kink is like where a man wants their partner to go out and have fun and like go sleep with other guys and always come home to him to be reclaimed. That's kind of the kink, which
it.
I would love. Like that's
Yeah.
perfect.
That
And they
is
don't
nice.
they don't mess around outside of the
I'm
relationship.
too jealous for this shit.
So let's do the flip then. If you sound like you're maybe on the opposite end of this, would
Yeah,
you
I
never want
can't-
to open up?
No.
In no way.
No
No
way.
way.
Not even a threesome.
No.
Really?
I'm
Wow.
too jealous. Oh, I'm insecure. Probably.
I never,
So
I never
here's the
knew that
thing.
you wouldn't have a threesome.
No, I mean,
like, a
if I did, it would
boyfriend.
have to be with like in a different country with like a rando that I would never
Like,
see
what
again.
if you went to Amsterdam
What if
and
you hired someone? Yeah.
That would be fine.
Like, I think
That would
I
be fine
actually
for
think
me, like a
hiring
payment.
sex worker
Yeah.
is sort of like the
ideal.
best way if you're jealous because it's very,
Right.
you know, it's transactional.
100%.
One, let's talk about jealousy really quickly. I do think jealousy is a natural thing in this world. It's how you react to your jealousy, how you respond to it. So, like, being jealous is totally fine. It's how you handle it. So, like, that's where the
Well, I'm
communication.
a crazy
Well, Allie's
motherfucker.
crazy.
Allie's
So.
crazy.
I shan't put myself in that position.
Going back to paying for it, I find that very attractive. I think that's really hot to like negotiate with some hot chick with like my man. He's like pulling out money and we're like negotiating with her.
I actually can see how that would be very sexy as well.
It would be fine. Like I feel like I'm very open-minded to a lot. Like the question isn't
very
like
open-minded.
Like this.
But
I
you
don't
know yourself.
I think that it would depend on the person, obviously, in the situation. Because, like, I've been in relationships in the past where
you would
I really was freaked out, like, anytime they weren't in the room.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not even in a sexual capacity,
Just
like,
I
period.
see them, and I'm like, what are they doing until 11 in the morning?
Literally.
So
You're like, is that a hotel room on your location?
I'm like, weird. What are you doing in this hotel room?
He's like, no, it's the IHOP next door. True story, listener.
True story, listener. Let's kill him.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot lately. Should have known then.
But there's some situations where you'd feel
right, but
more
I feel
comfortable.
like obviously, like if the person I knew was not gonna screw me over, then
What if you're the unicorn, like with a couple? And for the listener, the unicorn is the woman who's the third who enters, or a man who enters a couple sexual relationship. Yeah, I would do that. That is much preferred, to be honest, because I'm the star. I love that.
That's more preferred to me because I can leave whenever.
Exactly.
So I've tried ethical non-monogamy with 2 men.
Which men?
The worm.
Boo.
Yeah, that didn't work out.
And similar to the way Nora was describing it, the married relationship that she had went on one date with, he and I started monogamous and then opened it up. And then he didn't follow the definition of ethically non-monogamous.
That's what happened with the worm.
The worm.
So you opened it up, but he didn't communicate.
He did not communicate.
He didn't respect.
So
he did
that's
not
cheating.
respect. Right. So that's not E&M. I, on the
hate
other
this
hand,
man.
I know everyone should hate the worm. He's a terrible person.
Hope he's dead.
But me too. But so for example, I was seeing this other guy who was also interested in E&M. And so what I would do is communicate to the worm where I was going, what we talked about, because we were like poly. I was like dating this other person. What we talked about, like the type of sex we would have, the parts that I enjoyed, things like that, like very, very open. The worm was like that too for a little bit, but then he started getting secretive. He started getting kind of weird and shady, hiding things from me, lying about where he was going, lying about who he was with. And it really didn't make sense in like an E&M type of situation. Like that's the whole point is
right.
And we both enjoyed it and had pleasure hearing about the other person's like activities,
Yeah.
But then he started lying, and so he became a cheater in the E&M world, as how I would describe it, and he was just a terrible human being.
Right.
The other guy, so I continued seeing that one because he was better at it.
You were about to say great.
He wasn't great at it. He got really salty.
Who's the other guy? Do we have a nickname or?
We don't even have to give him a nickname.
He doesn't need a
never
name.
be brought up again.
Okay.
Like,
Damn. Sounds a little bitter. What'd he do wrong?
he really struggled with the E&M part of like us coming together. He liked hearing about parts of like my activities. I enjoyed hearing about his. He was obviously living really far away from me. This was when I was in New York City. He was in Mexico City. I loved hearing about his dates, if he hooked up, if like I always asked if he got her off, like things like that.
Do you think he ever was lying?
Oh, for sure.
Like he was like, yeah, I totally fucked with this hot blonde last
Probably.
night.
Right? He was
That
like,
would
she
be
had
me.
10 orgasms.
Honestly,
and
I do
squirted.
lie to some of my guys sometimes.
Fuck yeah.
In that they want a dirty talk and they want a dirty talk about my sex, but I didn't have any sex. So I just kind of make it up.
It's like when you're sexting with a guy, you're washing dishes. You're not jerking off.
All the time.
The reason the Mexico City guy didn't work out, he would get jealous, which is fine.
Pussy.
You could get jealous. But he also could not get me off. So he would get really upset if another guy could.
Insecure.
And so his jealousy came out with insecurity, some controlling aspects. So we ended things.
Got it. Do you think that's why I'm single?
And then he cried on the Zoom call.
That seems like me. Was it me?
No, I know you could get me off, baby girl.
I know.
Oh, speaking of jealousy, just kidding. I had one other polyamory experience. In my early 20s, I was dating an quote-unquote older guy. He was 30. And
Well, you were like 20.
I was like 22. He felt old at the time.
Yeah.
But now I just know he was fucking stupid and immature. Like, it's so embarrassing in hindsight that he was dating me. Like, what the fuck?
It is embarrassing.
He was engaged to another woman who he told me he was, like, non-monogamous with. Ethically non-monogamous. Spoiler alert, he wasn't.
It wasn't ethical. Non-ethical.
Spoiler
And
alert,
the only thing
she
he could
did
pull
not
was
know.
a 22-year-old fucking
Right.
loser.
I know. Which, obviously, if I were older and more experienced, I would have known that
He's
that
just a
wasn't
cheater.
True.
Right.
And
Right.
then, after they ultimately broke up and did not get married,
Mm-hmm.
he
God.
tried to date me ethically, non-monogamously, and he would literally go on so many dates and tell me all about them, and I would constantly be like, I don't want to know.
So even back then, Nora, you were not interested in hearing details. So you're just not one to want to know the deets.
You know, it's interesting because sometimes the idea of like a guy, especially a boyfriend, having sex with someone else, sometimes that idea does get me off. But it's all internal. Like, I never voice it to them because that would piss me off. Like, if they leaned into it, I would not like
it
that.
couldn't be dirty talk in the bedroom.
For
You know
sure
what
not.
pisses me off is I used to have like a sexed friend. We'll
Yeah.
call it.
Philadelphia.
And, yep. His fantasy was he would catch me like sleeping with somebody else and then
I
like
get that one.
you know push them out.
Yeah.
And then sleep with me, but then or he would ask me to go into detail about the people that I fucked. And then when I asked him, I wasn't interested, but I was like an eye for an eye because I'm
Right.
a fucking dude.
Totally.
You're crazy.
Yeah. And
I would do the
he
same
wouldn't
thing.
go into detail.
Of course not.
And I'm like,
Yeah, so he's probably in the camp of you're kind of hot wifing him. Like, that's kind of the camp.
Yeah.
Of like, he thinks it's sexy for you to fuck other people, but it's not really anything on his end that's hot to
and
him.
that I would really struggle with because I think also to kind of generalize as women, we would find that deceptive. Like he's keeping things and like if you're not sharing details, I would find that to be shady. And he might not be. He might.
Yeah, I just would rather be the one hooking up with other people and my man like that. Like, that's the dynamic I want. I don't want them hooking up with other
yeah,
people.
I don't really want to hook up with anybody else.
It depends on the relationship.
As the one in a monogamous relationship, I'm like questioning now. Like, I'm
You're
pretty.
like, this sounds
Yeah.
pretty good.
I'm content. However, we definitely talked about like in the future potentially like opening it up.
I think that's healthy. Like I think like
Yeah.
instead of getting
It
to the
shouldn't
point where
be,
you want to
like-
cheat because obviously
Yeah.
people aren't meant to be like with one
Monogamous
person
Right.
for
that.
70 years.
Yeah,
That's
no one was
psychotic.
living that long.
But set the expectation early on. Like,
Yeah.
hey, eventually.
Yeah. It's just, I feel like all of these types of conversations, like finance, monogamy, all of these things should.
Same thing, yep.
Dude.
Tara's top two.
Finance,
Those are the two
religion,
things.
monogamy.
Oh, yeah, religion should also, kids, all of these fucking things.
No, monogamy should be talked about more because
Right.
most people don't talk
Well,
about
that's
it.
like the first question. Like,
It's
that's probably
exactly,
crazy.
I'm gonna cut you off. I'm so sorry. Because what Nora just said is exactly what you two do, is like not talk
We don't
about
talk about
the fact
I'll
that you're
talk
not.
about it when we're in a relationship. Once we're in a relationship, I'll be like me and Bitch Boy Benjamin. We gave him that nickname,
Oh,
right?
no, it
Oh, did I
didn't
cut
air.
that? Oh, it didn't air.
Bitch Boy Benjamin, I love.
Sorry.
We've
we
rebranded
didn't-
Young Benjamin.
We didn't air the episode, but we rebranded my ex, Young Benjamin, to Bitch, Boy, Benjamin. But we talked once we were in a relationship being like, okay, if we got married and if we felt really secure, we'd be down for like threesomes
Yeah.
or maybe some open dynamics.
Yeah.
So I think once you're in a relationship, talk about it, but beforehand, nah.
Yeah.
Okay, but I guess where my head's at is like this I think it's really just in America. Other places they're way more open, like in that early courtship of dating where it's like, oh, can I take you out on a date? Sorry, I actually have a date with someone else that night.
Yeah, we don't do that in America
We do
at
not
all.
do that. And I think it's kind of weird. We're so coy about it.
I think it's a little weird as well in the really early stages of dating, how you have to kind of like lie.
Pretend that you're this perfect virgin.
But if I'm
that's at
going on a
home.
first date, obviously I'm going on other first dates.
Exactly.
That would be psychotic not to be.
Yeah.
But we're so coy about it and kind of hide it.
Yeah.
Or like we even lie. Like when I was seeing someone back in 2019, I would just lie and say I was hanging out with Nora, and this was before Nora and I hung out a lot.
Oh, I've been a scapegoat for y'all a couple of times
Yeah.
or two. I was told not to post on social media
God.
because we're having a sleepover.
Just quick throwback to Allie circa 2019.
When she had
If
no...
I had a fucking dollar for every time she would be like, don't post me, I'm not supposed to be here. Constant. She was the biggest liar.
Allie was a liar before 2020.
Constant.
They locked her away in 2020, and
She
she
stripped
got...
me of all of my rights and
She-
they
she-
reset me.
Like, she was never where she was
gained a
supposed
lot
to
of
be.
honor after COVID.
They hit factory reset.
COVID was your factory reset.
It really was, Al. You've become a much more honest woman.
Just lying and doing coke
Lying,
nonstop.
doing drugs, puking everywhere.
Puking
you were a
everywhere.
mess.
You were a monster. I don't know if your research took you anywhere with the Gen Z population, but I
No,
do.
my research actually is done.
Damn, Allie.
No, Gen Z is probably a lot more non-monogamous, right?
What I'm seeing, and I could be wrong, this is based off of my Instagram algorithm, so who knows? I feel
That
like
is the most
they're-
trustworthy algorithm.
That's where I get all of my fun facts.
A lot of OnlyFans content on Instagram. And by that I mean I don't have an Instagram, but our Bad Advice Only Instagram.
Oh, I see what you've done.
No, really.
Stop
When I
fucking up
go
our
through the search
algorithm.
on there, I get a lot of OnlyFan girls.
I get a lot of like one dish pastas to make. Well, like one pot
Okay,
meals.
back to Gen Z.
Sorry, Gen Z.
Reeling it back in. I think they're like falling on very opposite ends of the spectrum. Like they're being very like dramatic about it.
Ugh.
Either they're marrying very, very young and starting a family and, you know, moving far out and trying to like get off the grid, or the exact opposite, and they are all poly or E&M and just going balls to the walls.
Agreed.
Like I'm not seeing much of a happy medium.
I also find a lot of Gen Zers that I meet don't date at all.
Yeah.
Which is really, especially
yeah,
women.
I think that's your middle camp. Okay, so there's three
Yeah.
camps. Old-fashioned, traditional,
I
crazy
know
balls to the wall
a lot
poly.
of Gen Z women
Asexual.
who go on maybe 2 dates a year.
Yeah.
I think
Like,
it's
that's
cyclical.
crazy.
I think the generation above us, when they were all single and 30, were saying the same shit about us.
Yeah,
And then they all get
generation ab-
divorced. And
the
then
generation
a new pool
above
opens.
us was never single
I'm
at
just
30.
glad we all skipped our divorce era. Here we are.
We skipped our first divorce, ladies.
It's
we're
kind
doing
of
great.
like, you know how when you beat teenage pregnancy,
Yes.
we beat 20s divorce.
I
did.
thought you were going to say we beat teenage pregnancy.
Well,
And we did that too.
We did do that too.
Now that y'all have derailed everything I've tried to say, the Gen Z comment I had, I thought this was just absolutely egregious and insane. Someone was telling me they hooked up with a Gen Zer,
Yuck.
now girlfriend, and the first time they hooked up, he pulled out a condom. She goes, "Oh my God, you're so old-fashioned."
Oh my God, they're
She
not
says
using
that
condoms?
none of her friends use condoms. Like it's like a thing of the past.
You know what? I was just watching this show on Hulu about Gen Zers,
Oh, yeah?
and they were like, "Oh, I'm on birth control, so I don't need to use a condom." And I'm like,
Hey, y'all
one
never-
thing has nothing to do with the other.
I've gotten chlamydia enough times to know, Gen Z. You're going to want to use a condom.
We need video for Nora's finger wag, just for the chlamydia finger wag.
Okay, so ethical non-monogamy.
Should you do it?
Who's first to cheat?
Wait,
Ooh, I love that
we're
question.
E&M though.
No.
Okay,
Some
so
of us are ENF.
To wrap, which of the rats is most likely to cheat? It's definitely not Tara, because she would just tell
I
people.
thought you were going to be like, it's definitely me.
I mean,
it's most likely Nora.
It's most likely Nora.
historically, it's me.
History does tend to repeat itself.
I haven't cheated in a long time, guys.
That's true. Tara technically has cheated before then, but she found a loophole.
I found a loophole. Loophole.
All right. Keep classy. Goodbye.
Bye, rats.
As always, thanks for listening. If you're interested in even more bad advice, scurry on over to Instagram and TikTok at Bad Advice Only NYC. We're begging you. Download and rate the show and leave us a review. Talk to you next Monday.
Stay tuned, rats.